welcome to another edition of the Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am your host, Shapiro the Hero, aka the Hebrew Hammer. Well, folks, we made it. We never thought we'd get here, but here we are. The playoffs. 14 weeks of wins and losses, triumphs and heartbreaks, breakout stars and disappointments. And we have our 7 teams that will be competing for the title of the Daddy. It's kind of ironic that I was maybe the only person to really object to a 17 playoff, and yet it is that very rule change that has me in the playoffs this year. That irony is not lost on me. We'll break down all the rest of our playoff matchups as well as our consolation bracket in the rest of this episode. But first, as always, a word from our sponsors. This week's recap is brought to you by Hershey Kisses. Give a kiss to your favorite person or your favorite fantasy star and hope that they'll perform just for you. As always, we'll kick things off with our matchup of the week. To decide the final playoff spot, Cheese and I went head-to-head, with El Queso Grande defeating me 188.05 to 131.25. I should have known after Dalvin Cook's 45.2 points on Thursday night that I was in trouble. Add in 44.25 from Alvin Kamara and another 25.9 from Patrick Mahomes, and I pretty much had no chance. So, I tip my cap to you, sir. However, I was still able to make the playoffs thanks to my old faithful Leonard Fournette and Jamar Chase keeping the game close enough. While Cheese and I both finished the regular season at 7-7, I am into the postseason by virtue of points scored. I will face Armenti in week 1 of the playoffs while Cheese falls to 8th and slips into the void of no playoffs but no toilet bowl either. Looking now at the top of the standings, Kyle Swans completed his triumphant return to the Team Daddy League as he defeats Brett 165.63 to 143.55 to lock up the number 1 overall seed and, more importantly, the first round bye. Kyle has now won 5 in a row, and this week his big contributor was Devontae Adams with 39.1 points. Kyle also got almost 35 points from Kyler Murray, 18.8 from Van Jefferson, and 15 each from Deontay Johnson and the Packers defense. Despite getting 36.2 points from Tyler Lockett and another 28 from the Chiefs D, Brett falls back into the loss column, finishing the regular season in 5th place at 8-6. He will face Josh in week 1 of the playoffs. Speaking of Josh, it seems he has won bragging rights this year over his brother. Not just for beating Jed twice during the regular season, but also for being the one twin to make the playoffs. Josh locked up a playoff spot with this week with a 165.05 to 133.35 win over George. Matt Stafford led the way for Josh, scoring 35.35 points. In addition, Javonte Williams, Jalen Guyton, and Justin Jefferson each broke 20 points, as Josh finishes the regular season 8-6 and will play Brett in week 1 of the playoffs. Despite big games from Chris Godwin and captain Robbie Anderson, George falls to 5-9 to finish the regular season. He will play Big John in round 1 of the consolation bracket. As for Big John, he does go into the losers tourney with a win after taking down Zach 142.28 to 141. In our closest matchup of the week, Big John got 45 points from Captain Taysom Hill, 23.1 from Brandon Cooks, and 18.6 from Brandon Ayuk to squeeze past Zach for the victory. Probably the streakiest team in the league, Zach had won 3 straight coming into this week's matchup and was looking to lock up the number 1 overall seed. But despite 46.6 points from Russell Wilson and 21 each from Mike Evans and the Tennessee defense, Zach finishes the regular season at 9-5, good enough for 3rd place. This sets up a rematch of last year's championship between Zach and Swans. As we all know, Swans won last year's battle, but this is a new year, and anything can happen. Big John finishes the regular season in 10th place at 6-8 and will play George to avoid the toilet bowl. Our other consolation matchup was decided this week. Or should I say, PJ finally figured out who he was playing, as Armenti took down Jed 201.08 to 180.05. Both teams got big gains from their quarterbacks, but Armenti took advantage of his team captain Aaron Rodgers, who ultimately scored him over 64.5 points. Had Swans not picked Josh Allen as his captain, Armenti would have won the highest scoring player this week. As it happens, Jed actually had a weekly winner on his team this week, thanks to kicker Evan McPherson, who scored 16.5 points to win Jed $10. Literally half a point. Good on you, Jed. That was the only win for Jed this week, though, as he misses the playoffs despite big games from Tom Brady, George Kittle, and Rashad Bateman. As previously mentioned, Jed will face PJ in the consolation bracket, while Armenti and I will square off in week 1 of the playoffs. For our final matchup, we turn to the defending champ. Swans needed a win to secure a playoff spot, and he got one in resounding fashion, defeating PJ 241.85 to 136.78. Swans had the highest scoring team this week and the highest scoring player, with Josh Allen racking up 75.5 points. That single player, single week score is second only to Patrick Mahomes in week 10, who scored 84.45 points for Steve. Nevertheless, Swans finishes the regular season in 6th place with a 7-7 record. Mark Andrews and Hunter Renfrow each broke 30 points for the champ, who also got 25.4 from Najee Harris. PJ limps to the barn at 2-12, although he did get good games from quarterback Justin Herbert and AJ Green. For PJ, his shot at redemption begins next week as he faces Jed in round 1 of the consolation bracket. For Swans, his road to a repeat begins the same way it ended last year, against Zach. Rather than breaking down the weekly standings, here is a look at our playoff brackets. Kyle gets a first-round bye and will face the lowest remaining seed in the second round of the playoffs. Our first-round matchups are Josh versus Brett, Zach versus Swans, and me versus Armenti. In the consolation bracket, we have PJ versus Jed and George versus Big John. Remember that weekly winners continue all throughout the postseason, so remember to set your lineups even if you are eliminated from your respective bracket. To all the teams that made the playoffs, congratulations and good luck. To the 4 of you in the consolation bracket, I still wish you good luck. Team captains are done for the rest of the season, which can turn a matchup either way. Remember, it ain't over till it's over. Until next time, thank you as always for watching. This has been your Team Daddy Weekly Recap. I am the Hebrew Hammer, and I will see you next time. L'chaim, motherfuckers!